Greetings and salutations, I am Crom the Pale, and this is my 7 Days to Die New Player Building Guide. So, when you first start the game, you're going to be instructed how to build a wooden frame. These wooden frames are the most commonly used blocks when building in 7 days. However, there are many blocks to choose from, and if you hold R and click on shapes here, you'll see there's 1,365 different shapes. The vast majority of these shapes you're going to find little use for because they're mostly just for cosmetic purposes, but you can still choose to build with them if you like. The most common shapes you're going to come across is going to be the full cube, the half cube, the plate poles, round poles, the wedge, or should I say the ramp, the wedge tip, and the wedge, and you can see these two go together to give you a gentle slope that's not as steep as the ramp, just because vehicles find it easier going up that. Stairs, of course. There's ladders, and there's your wooden bars. You can also do things like letters if you want to put your name down on something. One thing you can do that makes it really nice is when you come across a shape you want, if you hold R, you can press copy shape, and that lets you copy that shape. Now if I want to, I can copy the rotation as well, but that doesn't always work for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's kind of a bug. But anyways, I'm going to go up to here. One of the things you need to be aware of in 7 days is gravity. Now all of these blocks are being held up by this central pole. And I used a weird shape block here so it's easier to count just how many blocks a wooden frame will hold. So this holds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I attempt to add another block there, you can see it has this bright pink background, and it will actually cause all of them to fail. Now if I quick copy shape and I take away the last block, you can see that adding this block is yellow, and that means that this is the last block that that pillar is able to support. Adding one more block causes them all to fall and break. I can remove my debris here. Now, the way they support isn't limited to straight lines. So you can see, even though I've done a different shape, the number of blocks it will support is the same. When you look at, this is cobblestone, and this is cement, they both will support much more, several blocks longer, and then steel here will support the most. There is a bug, however, with steel. As you can see, if I try to add another block here, it's pink, which means that it will cause everything to collapse. But for some odd reason, it will allow me to add this block in another location. That is a bug. It should not allow it because this last block should be supported. However, if I jump up and walk on the end block here, you can see it fell off. So it wasn't actually supported, even though it should have been. Now if I add another steel block here, also you can craft all of these blocks just by going into your inventory and typing shape. You can see all the different shapes available to you. Steel shape you can craft out of 10. It's going to take me 2 minutes and 30 seconds to craft that. Now, you can upgrade blocks using a stone axe, a hammer, or the nail gun. The nail gun does it fastest. So stone axe will take 3 hits, the claw hammer 2 hits, and the nail gun just 1. And it goes from the frame to wood. Once it becomes wood, you can no longer pick it up by pressing E. So you can see here, this I can pick up, this I cannot. I can then go from wood to cobblestone to cement to steel. You cannot go above steel. And if I walk over here, you should be able to see what hit points they have. If I punch this, this has 100. Cobblestone has 1,500. Cement has 5,000. Steel has 10,000, and the wood block has 500. Now, there are other blocks you can build with. There are brick blocks, which are 1,200, sheet metal, which is 1,000, and cloth, which is 5. There's also this is steel. They call them I-beams, I believe. I don't have one on me, but these also suffer from the same problem as the regular steel. These are iron I-beams. In fact, that last block is not there. Now, these blocks, these three here, you cannot craft. You can only acquire these 3 blocks via the bundles or trader rewards that you are given. However, with the forge, you can craft cement. You can then take that cement and use it in a mixer to craft mixed cement. Mixed cement is used to upgrade a cobblestone block to a cement block, or, again, if you have mixed cement in your inventory, you can create the concrete shapes. However, if you are building with the concrete shapes, once you place it down, you cannot pick it up. Now, other blocks that you can make in here are the bulletproof glass, the glass blocks, metal fences and railings, and the metal trussing. So that's the metal trussing or I-beams. Those are usually, again, they're done more for decoration than actual support. Because while they do have strong support as far as hold, their hit points are pretty low. So technically, since you could craft these relatively cheaply, at least a lot cheaper than getting the full-on steel, because you might not have a crucible to make steel, and steel does cost a lot more, it is conceivable that you use metal trussing for the framework of your building and then put other blocks around hiding it. But again, its hit points are only 1,000. To repair damaged items, you have to have the correct material in your inventory. Same thing with steel. Cement, you need mixed cement. Cobblestone, obviously cobblestone. And to fix the wood frame, take wood. One thing to note, there is several other blocks you can create. Oh, I'll leave that for a second. The gravel, which doesn't want to show up here, and the topsoil, these are all the same basic thing. These are used to fix divots in the ground, there you go, rather than actual blocks you can build with. So if I make a hole, I can use any of these blocks in here and restore it. And obviously the type of block that's being restored is based on the material I use. So if I make holes in the grass over here, I'll use a topsoil block. And topsoil is very easy to make. It's just made with clay, so if you go topsoil. But you can't change the shape of it. It just requires that. But that's how you fill in holes in the ground. Now, if you want, you could build something entirely out of steel and then later on decide, okay, I want to make that look different. So I can change it to wood. Now, it still has the same strength. It's just a matter of putting paint over it. And with the paintbrush, you can hold R and you can select different materials, different colors to paint whatever you want. So it's definitely a useful tool if you want to do something that looks more than it is, looks beautiful but still has the structural strength to make it a practical, defendable item. Other items you can make via the forge are these glass blocks and reinforced glass blocks. So if I put this block here, that's a straight reinforced frame. It also has multiple different shapes. So there's a full block. It's almost invisible, but you can just see it. Whereas with the glass blocks, they are completely invisible. So if I make this a solid block, and it has various different looks too. So this block is obviously visible, but if I were to make it out of just a pure glass, So there's shower glass and business glass. The difference really isn't very noticeable, other than maybe a little tint to the shower glass that the business glass doesn't have. I will say, however, this type of glass is extremely fragile, and it has no hit points. The bulletproof glass, on the other hand, it has 3,000 hit points, making it one of the strongest blocks next to cement and steel. You can see I can't repair it without more glass, so I would need to craft more glass at the forge to repair it, and that of course means time investment. So I would have to craft that, and it's going to take a minute 5. I'm not going to wait around. You can see there's more trusses here. To make mixed cement, you need to have crushed sand, small stone, and cement in your inventory, and then you can go and craft it up, but it does take a long, long time. So those are the real basics of building. There's not much more you need to know to build yourself a base or a just a strange POI, a structure. The next topic I want to cover is wiring. The electrical systems in this game are quite advanced and unique, I think. So, to do wiring in this game, you first need a generator. Generators can both be crafted and purchased from traders. They require gasoline, which you have to fuel, and an engine. Engines you can buy from traders, or you can loot them from vehicles that you wrench. Now you have to turn it on, and it will consume gas. To wire something, you need a wire tool. I have a wire tool in my hand. These, again, can be looted or purchased from traders. You will right-click on the object, the generator, and then right-click again on whatever you're wiring it to. You can then go from switches to electrical fences, and you can run these in tandem. So I could then run this to another electrical fence, and then from that one to that one. So now, right now, there's no power. They're not turned on because I put them through the switch. If I turn on the switch, now I'm getting electrical shock by passing through it. Cut that, and I'm going to wire up this. So this is now also on the switch. So if I throw that switch, you can see the blade trap is also working. You don't necessarily need a trap or a switch to wire up a trap. I could wire it directly from here. Now as I do this, you're going to see that not only does it turn on, but the other wire is no longer going to that switch. To disconnect a wired object, you point on the object and click left with your mouse, and that will cut the wire. Wires can also pass through solid objects. So if I right-click on this, and I right-click on this, this is a wire relay that's used to extend the distance by which I can wire. So if I wanted to, and I clicked on this, and I walked out here, you can see as I walk backwards, the black wire trailing behind me turns red. So if I walked over to here and wanted to hook this up, it's too far away. I can't do that. So I'm going to left click, cut that. I'm going to right click on this, however, and I'm going to walk around this wall here. And now you can see the wire allows me to connect it to the gun. Guns, I don't believe you can connect in tandem. Nope, you can. So now both guns are being powered by the same switch. So if I turn the switch on, whoops, and electrocute myself, because these now have power, I can now put ammunition in them, I can lock them, and I can click on this, and I can choose where they're targeting. I can only turn them so far. Well, I guess I can at 360 degrees. You can't exactly shoot at the ground, but I could turn them a fair range, and then press E again, and you'll see that that is now facing out that way. And if I do the same thing with this, only turn it a different way, oh wait, it doesn't have ammunition, or it doesn't have power, because the power did not go from that to that. So I'm going to left click, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to click on this. So even though it looked like it had power, it, for whatever reason, did not believe it had power. That's weird. The switch is on. It should have power. I'm not quite sure why this isn't receiving power. So I think that's a bug. That definitely should be receiving power. Oh, I know it's not. If I look here, my output is maxed out. So if I go to my electric fence and I cut it out, now when I look at this, now it's producing enough power. So now I can control where this is being aimed. So I can aim it up at the sky if I want to target birds. So there's a little something. Each engine that you put in this contributes 50 watts maximum to wire up. More than that, you need more power. Now I'm going to cut this because I would like to wire something else from this. And I'm going to wire up this trap here. Now that's a trigger plate. I'm going to wire that to the door. So there are powered doors, and I'll go over them in a moment. But you can wire up pressure plates to work on them. Generally, the pressure plate only opens it for a short time, but I've set it to 5 seconds. If I set it back to just triggered, then as soon as I open it and step off, the door is going to close. Thankfully, that's usually long enough to allow me to walk through. And these doors, because it's a power door, I can't open it. I can, however, pick it up because I clicked on the door, and I have a land claim block there. So I'll throw the door back down. Another thing you can do with these is you can switch these, or wire up tripwires. And then from the tripwire to something like a dart trap. So what this means is every time I step across the tripwire, the dart trap's going to go off. And I've determined that this tripwire, again, by pressing E, I can select options, and I've said 4 seconds. If I set it back to triggered, then it's just going to fire 1 dart. You can see if I interact with it, I have a ton of darts in there. There's not a whole lot I can do with that. If I hold E, I can look at options, or I can take it. Whoops. There we go. Oops, I'm going to cut that wire. Oh, one thing you should know as well, different colors of wires, as you can see, mean different things. So the wire between the tripwires has this purple running along it. Between the electric fences, it has blue, and then if it's just drawing power, it's yellow. So that's an easy way to determine if you're actually providing electricity to something. Now this has another wire running underground to something, probably to the... There we go. So that's that. Now here are several other things you can wire up. So I can draw a wire to this light. The spotlight is one of the few ones that you can actually interact with. You can not only turn it on and off, but you can aim it. So by clicking on it, I can choose to shine the spotlight in a different direction. So you don't have to worry too much when you place it where exactly it's shining that light. Now, another thing you can wire up is this speaker. And what that'll do is, I could have... And here it makes a loud noise, so I could wire the speaker up to, say, pressure plates or tripwires in a mine. So on the surface I have a pressure plate or a tripwire and then a speaker down the mine, so anytime a mob stepped on the pressure plate or the tripwire, that would sound an alarm and I would be made aware of it. So I'm going to turn this off. Now over here I have a bunch of power doors. So nothing's happening currently because the power is not hooked up. I forgot I took the power off to show something else. There we go. So these are switches that open and close these power doors. There's hatches. There's garage doors. And there are rolling garage doors as well. And then over here we have our drawbridge. Now, the battery bank and the solar connector, solar power bank, go together generally. You can just use the battery bank to power things. All you need is a battery bank and batteries to place inside. However, as their power is drawn, each one will drain away until it eventually has no power left in it, which means you'll have to replace the batteries constantly. A way to charge the batteries is through use of a solar bank. So solar cells go into a solar bank, generates electricity, and that electricity will recharge the batteries. If I turn this off, you see everything blinks, but it's still drawing power. It's just drawing that power now from this. So you'll see if you're using solar panels in conjunction with a battery bank, at sundown and sunup you might see doors open and closing by themselves. Now another thing you can do is you can set up a motion sensor so that when I walk through a door, it opens and it'll close behind me. And if I walk through from this side, it will open and close behind me. Now, a lot of people have difficulties with these, and it's partly because of how these work. So let me throw a block here so I can go up top. Now, when you look at motion sensor here, the settings on it aren't too complicated. The angle, of course, the closer it is, the easier it is to just pick you up. However, the wiring is what gives most people difficulties. So you can see I've got my power going into one camera. I then will wire this camera to this camera and then this camera to the door. You cannot wire one camera to the door and then the other camera to the door. So to get both cameras to work, I have to make them in a sequence. Another thing you can do is something like this, where I've got the doors placed in the ground here, and if I turn the power off, I get a nice hidden stairwell. So that takes a little more creativity, but you can make this into a hidden stairwell for a base. I could put a ramp there for vehicles and have an underground garage. There's a lot of options and possibilities. But that, for the most part, is how wiring works. The relay is just extended. There's a timed relay too. I personally have never found a use for it. Another switch you're going to see inside POIs is this switch here. This is one that the devs, the developers of the game, have included to function alongside the Restore Power quests. It is not something that the player can craft, nor can we wire it. So if I take power from the generator here, you can see it won't let me wire to this. The same holds true for these little light bulbs up top here. You can't wire to these things. I'm clicking the button furiously and nothing has happened. And so I'm going to left click and I'll shut off that. So now the next thing I want to show you is a little bit about base designs and concepts. So for that I'm going to be using God mode. And here we have one of my early base designs. This is one that I came up with inspired by what I watched in other streamers play the game right after I started playing myself. The base design is very simplistic. It's relatively small. Well, it's very small. And the purpose of this is simply put, you stand inside this little kill box here, you turn on the generator, turn on this, and now the zombies are going to go up the ladders, they're going to go up the stairs, and they're going to come towards me. I can melee fight them, or I can shoot them with a gun. The blade traps and the electric fences add to the overall damage, make it easier. And I've got this back door here, which I can both escape from and use to get up. And I use this jump setup here, with you go up the tower and then you jump up in here, just so that I don't have to worry about zombies piling up here and getting to me. There's no way for them to reach that. They don't see that as a viable path. So zombies should all run around and climb up here. and run straight through my death traps to get to me. This base can be improved by several different ways. You can add walkways between here if I wanted to. I could then place more electrical fences on them. I could add blade traps, say, underneath here, like this, or down here like this, so that any zombies that fell off were diced up. I could add blade traps on the sides, so that any zombies that ran past were sliced and diced. There's a number of different things that could be done to create a lot more death. You can even extend this. However, the farther back I push this ramp, I'm going to need more support structures for starters. But second of all, the pathing of zombies is generally limited to 25 blocks. So the number of blocks from where I'm standing right here. So you want to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So you can see I'm already pretty close to 25 blocks. So any farther that you move this out, you run the risk of zombies not pathing to you and instead just attacking the base pillar here. So if you do back it out, you're going to want to leave something like ladders here or ramps here, just so that zombies see this as a valid path to you. Another option, of course, is this base. And this base was one more inspired by a streamer that I watched. And this is a kill corridor. So the idea, obviously, is you sit in here, the zombies come down the corridor, the electric fences and blade traps do a lot of damage, and I can kill them with my guns however I wish to. Now, if I run out here, you'll see that the walls here, and I'll change this back to a block, are angled. That's because zombies generally like to run north, south, east, west. So if our zombie runs to the block here, it's going to path along this way rather than punch into the block. You can see I've some blocks here. Another base that I made is this base here, and this is my latest base. I wouldn't say my best by any means, but the idea with this base is it takes advantage of the fact that zombies see this bar as being equal in pathing to this cube. They don't see this as being a difficult terrain, even though it has the same HP and is much thinner. Oops, I repaired the wrong block. So what happens? The zombies run up here. Again, I stand on the other side. I don't have a hatch there this time. I've got a bar here. I've got 2 bars here, so there's no way for them to get in. They can just hit me, but you can see how I fell off there. And then I have to circle back and come back up here. So because the bar is so thin, when there's 2 or more zombies here, the ones behind, they tend to push over to the left or right and fall off. And I've got my similar jump up pattern here. And then you can see I've got shutters here, so multiplayers can do this. So while one person is standing here meleeing, another person can stand here and fire down. This also helps with dogs and animals and spider zombies. Somebody else can stand up here and shoot through bars, because you can fire weapons through bars without damaging them. You can use things like the creative menu and the debug menu to show a lot of things. So if I press F1 and type CM, that turns the creative menu on and off, and DM turns the debug menu on and off. One thing I should show you, and I'll go into God mode for this, is a structural bug that the game has. So if I press escape now and turn on show stability, you'll see that the green is the most stable and orange bordering on red is the least stable. Now if I go down here and I decide I want to change these blocks out for poles, so I'm going to press escape, I'm going to turn off the stability here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change out and I'm going to put poles in here instead. like I've used here. So these are actually 4 poles instead of 1. So if I place these poles here, it's going to be awkward tonight. Now those poles are now supporting the structure, and I can add more poles and even more. So these 3 poles are now supporting this structure. That means that I can remove these and there's no chance that the structure is going to collapse. It is fully supported. And if I put these poles in, I've now restored the structural stability to exactly what it was prior. It's actually 4 times greater now because there are 4 poles there. Now here's the bug. If I show stability, you'll see that the green here no longer goes all the way up, and in fact there's yellow and orange over here now because the stability has been altered. The green should go all the way up, but it doesn't because the game doesn't recalculate stability. So I have to go into debug mode, click on recalculate stability, click escape, and now you can see it's dark green and the orange is pushed back inside where it was before. So that is a bug. That is something that I'm hoping the developers will take a look at, as it really needs to be addressed, as it does prevent us from, or hampers us from, a lot of building that we want to do in game. But yeah, these aren't to say they're the best concepts for base designs. This particular base design is both a crafting and a horde base. As you can see in here, there's plenty of space, and it's extendable. I can push it back even further. And if I go into God mode for a second, you can see over here I actually built a crafting base up on top. Now this base isn't complete. I actually can keep going up, put a roof on this, put some automated turrets to deal with birds and other such things. Oops, pressing the wrong button. And so yeah, there's a lot of options and variabilities. You don't have to have 4 paths. You could limit this to 3 paths and fill the back in completely solid and put a base on top of it, and then have like a cage over top of the central area. There's a lot of variations that are possible. While I myself am not a big fan of underground bases, they are highly popular amongst a lot of players. So that's my base building guide. I've covered as much of the basics of building bases, whether you're building a crafting base, a horde base, a dual purpose base, whether you want to craft a structure to just be very cosmetic, like you can build your own buildings, POIs we call them. You can build, a castle. I know a player that's doing that. You can create something that really looks amazing. Just remember, you have to obey the laws of gravity. So, thank you for watching. This has been my base building guide for new players. I hope I've covered enough to help you build your horde base, your crafting base, or just a very cosmetic POI, castle, whatever you feel comfortable building. That's my 7 Days to Die building guide for new players. I hope I've answered any questions you had about building. If there's anything I've missed, make a question in the comments and I will answer it. For now, have a good day.